a team that we have not been quite as optimistic on as many over the last month or two since really the season started. What do you make of this game? Are we to make too much of this? I mean, listen, Kansas, you got to go into West Virginia and beat this Mountaineers team, don't you?
You'd think, but I mean, like, look, if you look on the whole from Kansas for the week, they had the two bottom teams in the Big 12, or two of the bottom teams in the Big 12. They actually, the schedule starts really soft for them, right? Central Florida, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia on the road. And based upon how it's playing out, those are, and I know Central Florida beat Texas at Texas, but for the most part, they're likely to be a bottom team, right? Whereas for Kansas, the tougher competition in terms of top of the league is going to be at the end of the year, mostly for TV's sake. So, yeah, I mean, you get a split for the week, not terrible, but when you play the three bottom teams in the league, or three of the bottom teams in the league, and you go 1-2, that's not the stuff of league champions, right? Now, where Kansas is usually ahead of everybody else, they don't lose at home. And then, you win all but a couple of road games. But again, like, listen.
But you got to win this road game, Doug.
Right.
These are the road games you got to pick off.
Right. And so it should change how we look at it, right? It should change how we look at KU moving forward. But I think you and I have been kind of lockstep in this, in that they're not very deep. Okay. They're not very deep. And like, let's see, because they have Cincinnati at home, and Cincinnati's, just lost at home to Oklahoma. Then they go to Iowa State. They still have to go to K-State, to Tech, who's playing great, coming back from a big deficit to beat BYU, to Oklahoma, to Baylor, to Houston. All the rest of their road games are NCAA tournament teams.
They're rough.
So they're gonna, if they want to win this league, which Kansas always does, the only way to do that is to win half of those. If they win half of those, I think they'll be fine. They don't.
Yeah.
They won't. Yeah. But again, part of it is, like, we're realistic. It's a 4-man team, and they're trying to figure out if Furphy can be that fifth guy, and even then the bench is slim. And
do you like this? Do you like the fact that they're going deep, giving Furphy now 30-plus minutes? It helps you offensively, Doug, but it really hurts you on the defensive end because he can't guard anybody right now.
Well, yeah. Additionally, like, Hunter Dickinson is a gigantic man and a good rebounder, but he is not a rim protector, right? He just bodies up. I mean, like, look, Dujuan Harris, who I love, he's a true point guard, and he's hit big shots even in a national championship game. His lack of scoring, makes it so that you're playing a little bit 4-on-5. But yeah, I mean, like, look, they actually,
hey, Doug, you know how many threes Dujuan Harris has hit in their 3 losses?
Probably none.
Zero.
Yeah. Now look, they got Nick Timberlake going a little bit. Okay, that Parker Brown could be maybe the big off the bench. So not all of this is bad. Like, I actually think for Bill, he wants to win the league. That's kind of their, obviously that's their thing. But if in the process of it he develops a rotation, and you go 9 deep like they went the other day, it might actually be better for them once they get to March.
Yes, I'm 100. Listen, I will take the loss there if Johnny Furphy continues to progress, because again, without him, you got no shot in the NCAA tournament. And if you're a Kansas fan, it's great to hang another Big 12 banner, but ultimately, what are you playing for? You're playing for a Final Four and hopefully a national title. So, all right, West Virginia,
let me
quickly.
just real quick on Kansas. Okay, I do think that this happens often, is that they're so good in the league, and Bill is so good at winning the league, that oftentimes it gets them seated higher than they actually are. And some of the reasons that there have been times they've come up short in the tournament is because they're not really as good. Just Bill is amazing, and they don't lose games at home.
Yeah. All right, West Virginia. Josh Eiler, quickly, interim head coach. Listen, their record isn't good. We know that. 7-11, 2-3 in the Big 12. If they went on a run, because now, they're going to get Jesse Edwards back here fairly soon, I think. And this was, that type of game where, let's play a hypothetical game. And let's say they win 5 of their next 6, okay? Could they get back into the NCAA tournament conversation in a Big 12 where, like, every game, other than against Oklahoma State and maybe UCF, is a resume win?
That's what happened last year. right? Last year, they actually finished behind Oklahoma State in the standings. Didn't have a good non-conference, but picked off some good wins at the end of the year and got in the NCAA tournament. That's what happened last year. I don't think that's the case this year. 5 of 6 sounds great, okay? But then what, right? Because then there's a bunch of other games. Look, in terms of him just maintaining the job, he's got Central Florida this week and Oklahoma State this week, both on the road.
Have to win them both.
Okay?
Have to win them both, almost.
Got to win both. Probably got to win them both. And it's going to be really hard, right? Because those teams are like, we got to get this one too. Like, those are really, really hard games. Right. Then you got Cincinnati, BYU at home. You still go to Texas, to TCU. You got to go to Iowa State, to K-State. Now, they don't have to go to KU this year, so that doesn't kill them.
Helps.
But the likelihood of them getting back in the conversation is not great, despite the fact that the roster is going to get better. As far as Josh maintaining the job, I think lots of people in the league want him to because they like him. But the likelihood is that they're going to go big game hunting because they have a lot of NIL money. And I think Ren Baker believes this is a big-time job in that league because they can compete financially with anybody.
All right, after the game, West Virginia fans stormed the court. And speaking of storming the court, Doug, there was an issue in the Ohio State-Iowa women's game yesterday. After Ohio State upset Iowa, Buckeyes fans stormed the court, and one fan collided with Hawkeye star Caitlin Clark and sent her tumbling to the floor. She was okay afterwards, but here's what Iowa coach Lisa Bluter had to say after the game.
It's unfortunate the game ended that way, and Caitlin gets taken out on the floor, gets some inappropriate words yelled at her by fans, by students. That just should not happen. It should not happen. Our players should be safe. They should be able to walk off the floor. That's very disappointing. I think Ohio State, great team, great environment, but obviously very disappointed with the post game with our players getting injured trying to walk out of the gym. That's wrong.
All right, Doug. What do you think of the comments? What do you think of court storming? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Were you a part of it a bunch in college?
I played. I didn't storm any courts.
No, but were you a part of fans storming the court is what I'm asking.
Only once my sophomore year when we beat Oklahoma. My boy Brian Montanati, who didn't play like in 13 games that year, just because transferred from junior college, and he got carried off the court. Like, that was really cool. I don't think you do it all the time. I do think you do it when you beat Caitlin Clark in Iowa. I think it's out of respect. Look, here's the issue with women's basketball. Okay, I fully respect that Caitlin Clark shouldn't have been run into. Right? But her coach, who does a magnificent job, by the way, like, you can't yell mean words at us. Like, I get it, but on other and Caitlin's not as guilty of this as others are, but the women are way more verbose in terms of talking trash to each other than the guys. They're so over the top. Oh my God! I mean, dude, watch. Like wow. Yes. Wow. Guys, by and large, don't talk trash. Now, it's also the game is officiated very differently. The coaches aren't allowed to even speak to the officials at all. It's very, very different. So comparing the two, it's really a different sport. But the other part to it is women's basketball isn't used to having crowds. Ohio, that's the only, like, the Schottenstein Center was alive. And I don't think we punish, I don't know how many 15,000 people there were, because one idiot is looking. The reason she did it is she's looking at her damn phone. Right? She's like, oh my God, I just ran into somebody. Yeah, you ran into Caitlin Clark.
She didn't even know she ran into Caitlin Clark, probably.
And the people were like, oh, Caitlin is acting like, if you're running off the court and somebody runs into you and you don't see them coming, it hurts. It's not a career-ending injury. You're not going to die from it or whatever, but it doesn't feel good. And she is the prized possession of women's hoops. She's single-handedly carrying not just Iowa basketball, but women's basketball. She's a thing. She's the Pistol Pete Maravich of women's hoops. She's Jimmer Fredette, if you will. Okay? Yep, she had 45, and I think she leads the country in assists, too. Like, she's amazing.
Awesome. She's amazing. Freaking awesome. Yes,
she's amazing. And she should have a little bit of a bubble around her. I get it. Yeah. But, like, we take these one-off instances and like it's real, like we make it into some bigger thing, a stop court system. Like, no. Right. You have security hired.
Be better about it. Yeah, be better about it.
And students have to understand a couple things. Like, the actions of one are going to affect everybody else. The actions of one. So, like, if you see,
you can say that all you
most of them do. Care. No, the one who steps out of line doesn't, but they got their boys right there. You can grab your dude and be like, yo, just get to the middle of the court. And again, like, there is nothing nefarious here at work. Nothing.
Nope.
It's just a dipshit who's running on the court looking at her phone. That's all it is, right? That's really what it is. It's not somebody trying to beeline and take her out. It's not, they're not, she didn't stand over her like she was a safety, like she was Steve Atwater and count her out, right? She didn't even know what she did. She's just like, oh my God, we ran the aisle wide. Oh, somebody ran into me, and she was still on her phone. So it's more a sign of 2024 that you'd rather experience it while being on TikTok Live and IG Live than actually experience it as a human being. That's what the bigger problem is, not court stormings.
All right, speaking of experiences, Big Z, Zvonimir Ivisic, had one hell of a first experience with college basketball, right? This is a guy who's 20 years old, has been suspended for the first 16 games of the year while the NCAA investigates, kind of whether he's eligible, his eligibility, his amateurism status, whether he was a pro back home. And he gets eligible before the game Saturday against Georgia. And man, oh man, did he tear it up in the.
This is the greatest thing ever, first of all. Okay, like, listen.
From the field, 3 for 3 from 3.
Let me just hop in here, okay? First thing is, for years the NCAA has tripped all over themselves to make it harder for international players to come over here and play because, hey, they signed professional contracts at a young age. Meanwhile, we're signing NIL deals. Like, what are we doing?
So ridiculous.
What are we doing? And again, I am somebody who has defended the fact that, like, these NCAA rules, for the most part, many of them actually make sense because we knew it would get to pay for play. We knew it would get to the point of being ridiculous. I've actually been a defender because the NCAA rules are voted on by these schools. And what happens is the schools vote for them, and then the second it affects them, they're like, no, who voted for that? You did. Anyway. But the international rules have for a long time been ridiculous.
All right, let's get to Big Z. Let's get to Big Z. Big
Z. Awesome. It was awesome. Oh, let me tell you, we're talking about Big Z, and it's amazing. The PTP. It was, first of all, like, Kentucky's all they needed was a big and a rim protector, and he can catch and shoot and run and chew gum at the same time. Like, dude, Big Z is a problem.
So right? Are you ready? Wait. Are you all in?
Yes.
After watching Big Z one game,
yes.
You're all in.
Yes.
I see him tomorrow night, Doug. I got him in person tomorrow night here in South Carolina. I can't wait to see if Big Z can replicate that to any degree.
Okay. I don't know if he'll replicate it, and it doesn't matter, right? They have so many options out there. It's not that he has to be able to shoot and hit threes. It's the threat of it. It's not that he has to block shots. It's the threat of it, right? It's just the threat of it. And he's played at a high level overseas. Like, none of this stuff really rattles him at all. So here's my chips, and I put him into the middle.
Oh, okay? Look at this!
And I put him in. And let me tell you why.
All in.
Let me tell you why. Okay, what does no one have in college basketball?
Everything that Cal has.
No one's got pros anymore. They just don't. Like, maybe they got one dude or whatever. Like, go look at the top 10 in the draft board, right? Like, I think one plays in college, right? He's a freshman at Baylor, right? The dudes are overseas, are overtime, are in the G League, but Kentucky has dudes, and they got enough veterans. And, like, I like them. These are my chips. I'm going in on Kentucky.
Love it. I love it. I can't believe it. Throwing your chips in. All right, next up on Goodman versus Gottlieb, we've seen a lot of good. and a lot of bad so far in college hoops. Coming up, we're going to take a look at some of the best and worst of some of the key conferences. We'll start with the ACC. All right, welcome back. Goodman versus Gottlieb, Monday afternoon. Remember, Warren Stadium every single weekday from 1 to 1:30 Eastern time. And now it is time to look at the good and the bad in some of the major conferences, Douglas. And I'm going to start with you in the ACC. I know you're a glass half full person all the time. Give me the good in the ACC.
Oh, okay. I love that we're doing this. I think it's just a good way. The good's going to be North Carolina. Okay? And you might sit there and say to yourself, well, who do they play? They're not playing the top line teams or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? This is about, look at Duke losing at home to Pitt, right? So they demolish Louisville, they demolish Syracuse, they demolish NC State, and then they demolish Boston College on the road. Just taking care of business. Like, they're a machine. And the offense has come along and the defense has been stellar. So the good is North Carolina. Can I give you the bad, or do you want to do your good first as well?
No, I'm going to pick up on your good and be a little bit more detailed and go RJ Davis. He's more efficient. He looks happier. He looks more at ease, a little more freedom. I'm not going to say why, but RJ Davis to me is the good for the ACC. Go ahead with the bad.
All right, let me go bad. And I could have, by the way, added Syracuse, huge win, to beat Miami. Okay, but again, these are not against NCAA caliber tournament teams, so it doesn't make enough of a change. But still, Red Autry, first year full-time head coach, he's recovered from a slow start. The bad's Miami, right? Miami's lost 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, right? Last year, they were the NIL team, right? They were the team that had been put together and had gotten to the Final Four. And it's always interesting to me on how we like to latch on, because there were plenty of teams that last year Texas Tech was a big money team. That thing blew up and the coach got fired. So we still don't have a case study on this. But again, and when we get to the Florida Atlantic conversation later this week, maybe this is part of it. When you stay at a school out of loyalty to a check, does that affect you? And right now, that feels like one of the things affecting Miami. They should be better than they are, and they're not. So Miami is the bad.
Yeah, lack of depth with the Kings as well. Can't really withstand injuries, and Northside Amir's been hurt lately. I'm going to go with the Virginia schools, both of them. Virginia's taking a step back here. I mean, remember that loss to Notre Dame a couple weeks ago? They're 4-3 in the league, kind of an afterthought. Winning the league, where usually you think Tony Bennett's going to win the league every year. And then Virginia Tech. Listen, we all applauded the hire of Mike Young to Virginia Tech, and they've really fallen off. They're under 500 right now in the ACC. So I'm going to go with both Virginia and Virginia Tech. All right, Big 12. You're good is who?
I'm going to say Oklahoma's my good. They had a big win over the weekend at Cincinnati. So they've been defending their home court well, haven't played as well on the road. But again, in order to stick around in the conversation at the top of the league, to guarantee yourself a spot in the NCAA tournament, you got to pluck off a road win or two. The win at UC is a big one.
Yeah, I'm going BYU for the passing grade here, the good, because we didn't think we'd even be talking about BYU at this point. And I know they're struggling a little bit in the league. But, man, Mark Pope has done one hell of a job, Doug. And to me, he gets the passing grade for sure. Who do you got as a bad?
I'm going to go TCU. Now, part of it is I have to wax poetic about Iowa State. Iowa State, without their point guard, goes on the road and gets a win. But for TCU, again, got to defend your home court. You just do. And it wasn't just that they lost to Iowa State over the weekend. It's that they trailed essentially the entire game, and there was a real lack for a team that likes to play fast. There was a lack of energy. So they conclude a week where they lose at Cincinnati in overtime. And then that game seemed to affect them, and they lose at home to Iowa State. And now you go back out on the road and play 2 road games, where you haven't won a Big 12 road game yet. We'll see against Oklahoma State, who hasn't won a game yet, but, led K-State by 10 late and did lead Baylor late when they lost at home. So TCU disappointing because of, they beat Houston, they beat Oklahoma, they probably should have beaten Kansas. So you would have thought there's momentum, and they just had a really bad week. So we'll see if they can flip it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with another team in Texas, the Longhorns. It just hasn't really completely come together. They got a big win over Baylor over the weekend, but ultimately they've lost a couple games they shouldn't have. Rodney Terry with the horns down didn't react overly well to that. I just don't think the team is constructed very well. So I'm going horns down with Texas here.
Oh, you're doing horns down? You're doing horns down?
Don't tell Rodney,
but I'm doing
horns down.
How far down?
It's disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
I know.
Disrespectful.
All right, let's go picks tonight, Doug. Couple big games. I'm going to start with a huge one. Ready? That's not even on our slate right now. I'm gonna kind of go off here. At FAMU at Mississippi Valley State, Doug. Mississippi Valley State is one of 2 teams without a win. They're 0-18 this year. Does Mississippi Valley State get the win? Do they finally? It's them in Detroit. Mike Davis. Detroit. They win tonight.
The game is at Mississippi Valley State, and you got FAMU coming in, who's also lost like a million in a row. Yes, tonight's the night that Mississippi Valley State gets off the schneid.
There it is. I like it.
Are you picking as well?
Right. 2. Yeah, I'm taking them too. I'm taking them. It's over. They're going to get the win, and they're getting, I think, 5.5. So take the line too. Take the money line. Wake at Carolina. Who do you got?
I'm going to take Carolina. Wake's playing better. Yeah. I'm going to take Carolina. Not a hard pick.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the Efton Reed Armando Bacot matchup in that one. They've been a different team, Wake has, since they've gotten Efton Reed eligible. Transfer you. That's really what Steve Forbes has done.
LSU, it didn't play at Gonzaga last year. I thought they could have used him at Gonzaga, and Steve Forbes did a really good job.
Totally could have. All right, last game. Cincinnati at Kansas. Is it a bounce-back game? Bill Self is like 97% winning percentage at Bog Allen. You're not going against that, are you?
No, I'm not. KU handily. Cincinnati's done a nice job. Disappointed in the loss this weekend with the lead at home.
You lay in the 8.5 here?
I would take KU in the points. KU in the points.
Yeah, I would lay the points as well. I think they're going to rout Cincy and Wes Miller in this one. All right, thanks for joining us. Goodman versus Gottlieb. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. All right, welcome back. Goodman versus Gottlieb. Happy Monday. Good weekend of hoops action. Not a ton of upsets over the weekend. UConn, Purdue, top two teams in the country win. But Doug, Kansas goes down in Morgantown. Not against a NIL paper play. I know I can't use the NIL word with you. Paper play heavy West Virginia team that was put together, and they don't have Jesse Edwards. Kirk Creason made a couple free throws at the end of the game to ice it, but they beat him. They shocked them. Raekwon Battle, the late addition, right? He was eligible from the multi-time transfer rule. He had 23 points, 9 rebounds, So West Virginia improves. They're now 7-11, Douglas, but they beat Kansas, a team that we have not been quite as optimistic on as many over the last month or two since really the season started. What do you make of this game? Are we to make too much of this? I mean, listen, Kansas, you got to go into West Virginia and beat this Mountaineers team, don't you?
You'd think, but I mean, like, look, if you look on the whole from Kansas for the week, they had the two bottom teams in the Big 12, or two of the bottom teams in the Big 12. They actually, the schedule starts really soft for them, right? Central Florida, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia on the road. And based upon how it's playing out, those are, and I know Central Florida beat Texas at Texas, but for the most part, they're likely to be a bottom team, right? Whereas for Kansas, the tougher competition in terms of top of the league is going to be at the end of the year, mostly for TV's sake. So, yeah, I mean, you get a split for the week, not terrible, but when you play the three bottom teams in the league, or three of the bottom teams in the league, and you go 1-2, that's not the stuff of league champions, right? Now, where Kansas is usually ahead of everybody else, they don't lose at home. And then, you win all but a couple of road games. But again, like, listen.
But you got to win this road game, Doug.
Right.
These are the road games you got to pick off.
Right. And so it should change how we look at it, right? It should change how we look at KU moving forward. But I think you and I have been kind of lockstep in this, in that they're not very deep. Okay. They're not very deep. And like, let's see, because they have Cincinnati at home, and Cincinnati's, just lost at home to Oklahoma. Then they go to Iowa State. They still have to go to K-State, to Tech, who's playing great, coming back from a big deficit to beat BYU, to Oklahoma, to Baylor, to Houston. All the rest of their road games are NCAA tournament teams.
They're rough.
So they're gonna, if they want to win this league, which Kansas always does, the only way to do that is to win half of those. If they win half of those, I think they'll be fine. They don't.
Yeah.
They won't. Yeah. But again, part of it is, like, we're realistic. It's a 4-man team, and they're trying to figure out if Furphy can be that fifth guy, and even then the bench is slim. And
do you like this? Do you like the fact that they're going deep, giving Furphy now 30-plus minutes? It helps you offensively, Doug, but it really hurts you on the defensive end because he can't guard